All right. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we're going to talk about the First Amendment. And let me go over some things right quick. I put the link out there. I don't know if I think that's the right link. We're going to be talking about the First Amendment of the Constitution. All right. Now, while we talking about the First Amendment, keep in mind that if you come on the panel to discuss with us the First Amendment, you will be put on Roku. Welcome, Majorly Awesome. You will be put on Roku. The chat will not be, so y'all can chat away if you like. In the, I mean, you can, we will acknowledge the chat, of course, from time to time, but it will not be on Roku. It's only the people that's on the panel. If you want to come up on panel to talk about the First Amendment, that's great. The more the merrier. If you don't want to talk about the First Amendment, please don't hit the link and don't come up in this hour that we're going to be doing the discussion on the First Amendment. And I got some different rules, not to be talked over. The people on the panel, if we get too many up here, we will, mute. We'll have to mute if you're not talking. And whoever talks, and it's not their turn, they will be warned. And after that, they will be put in the basement. And after that, they will be kicked off the panel. Anything you'd like to add, Majorly Awesome?
No, I think he covered it pretty much. We're just trying to stay as focused as possible on the topic. We're going to try to, shoot for an hour on the topic. And then if it devolves after that into some other discussions or topics, we're fine with that. And it's only going to be, say, around the first hour of the panel that'll be going up on Roku anyway. We just want the educational part to be put up on Roku.
That's correct. And let me say this. If I don't acknowledge you in the chat, it's going to be difficult because if I'm talking to people in the chat, the people that's watching it later on Roku will probably, saying, why you keep talking to people? We don't see these people. So I thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. Just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to, ignore anybody. Usually I say, hey to everybody. I will still communicate in chat with you guys, as Majorly Awesome will be doing that as well, I'm sure. But anybody that wants to talk about the First Amendment, the link's out there. I will put it out there periodically. Hope we get some more people on the panel before we start the discussion.
I think Eyes on the State said he wanted to come up too. I'm not sure.
Okay. Anybody that's willing to discuss the First Amendment is welcome up. Don't be intimidated. About this, even if you don't know that much about it, you're welcome to come up and we can, you can ask questions about it. He said, give me a minute. He got browser problems. Eyes on the State did.
All right.
Raz, you're welcome up. I know you are very keen on the amendments, the Constitution. You're welcome up. I didn't have any video queued up, but I can, if you'd like me to pull some Constitution videos up, majorly awesome. I can do that in a flash.
Yeah, well, I just got that link that I sent you earlier that
That's right.
people can look at themselves. It's a what I guess you'd call a white paper, an essay, an article from Cleveland State University in 2012, and I'll go over some segments that I highlighted earlier, and then we could do some talking.
Yeah, I just put it in chat.
Okay, so if anybody wants that last link that Jeff put up there, that's going to be from what I'm reading, some of the stuff from tonight, so you can download it and look at it at your own leisure. But I found it really informative, and you guys will hear some of what's in there tonight. It's talking about the origins of the First Amendment, Toland, Trenchard, uh, just a lot of good guys. Blunt, a lot of people that had inspirational writings about the right to free press and what it was meant for.
Jason D was up here. Jason D, you welcome up, man. I'm sorry I didn't acknowledge you. He might have connection issues too.
Okay.
Welcome, Eyes on the State.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Major Lee, how are you?
I'm good as always, sir. Good as always.
Good.
Any day above ground, right?
Right.
That's exactly right.
I did talk to the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office Division of Professional Standards today.
Excellent.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this little video right quick. Maybe we'll get some more people in here. It's just a little short summary about the Bill of Rights.
My favorite, the Bill of Rights. Today we're going to be learning about the First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? The First Amendment was included in the first 10 amendments from the Bill of Rights. It was passed by Congress on September 25th, 1789. It was ratified December 15th, 1791. The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights contains 5 freedoms that Americans still treasure today. They are the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. I wonder what the First Amendment actually says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievance.
There you go. That'll give us a little baseline. Didn't want to go too far with that. And Jason D, I seen your question. He had a question. I can pop it up on here. I guess we could do it like that so people to see it. You want to take that one, Major League, or Eyes on the State?
Yeah, I can take that. There's 5 different rights within the First Amendment. Tonight we're going to be focusing on the right to free press, and that basically protects anybody who is gathering information with the intention on disseminating it to other citizens, because that's basically what the Bill of Rights, that's what the freedom of the press was intended for. And we're going to get into again the origins of the First Amendment and what the gentleman who basically crafted it thought of it, and what they hope would be accomplished with it. So it doesn't protect per se a gentleman at his daughter's school recital and taking pictures of it. The First Amendment doesn't protect him because he's doing that for personal reasons. He's not, taking pictures in order to disseminate it to the public audience. So we have to be careful, when we're out there, which is why a lot of us are saying we're gathering content for a story, because, we are. The qualifications of press are, that you're disseminating information that is of public interest, and no one can tell anybody what the public interest is except for the public. So, for example, the Sun newspaper or the Inquirer, where they're talking stories about Bigfoot and aliens and stuff like that, those guys are considered the press because people are buying that publication. So obviously it's a public interest. So if the public's interested in it, they're going to watch it. And if they watch it, that's what's of interest to them at that time. So it just matters on public interest and a way to disseminate that information to them, some kind of medium, be it a newspaper or a blog or, YouTube or, however, you would disseminate it. Back then it was pamphlets and, periodicals and stuff like that, newspapers.
Shoot. Had some notes.
I can get into reading that whenever you'd like.
Yeah, man. Just take off whatever you want to do.
Okay. Well,
I thought we'd have a couple more people up here by now, but that'll be a good time to do it while we're waiting.
Yeah, and then they could jump in and we could do like a Q&A or something. But okay, what we're reading from tonight is from the Cleveland State University. It's 2012. It's entitled "Saving the Press Clause from Ruin: The Customary Origins of a Free Press as Interface to the Present and Future." And I highlighted a couple of excerpts in there that I'll read from now. The first one is the case was Rex versus Woodfall, in which Lords Manfields delivered the following charge to the grand jury. "As for the liberty of the press, I will tell you what that is. The liberty of the press is that a man may print what he pleases without a licensor. As long as it remains so, the liberty of the press is not restrained. It is the same as in all other actions. A man may use his arm, but he must not strike his neighbor. He may use his tongue, but he must not speak blasphemy." So basically saying, you have this right of the press to print whatever, your sentiments are, as long as you do it in a responsible manner. You're not out there lying to, gain viewers or lying to increase your, subscription to your newspaper periodical at the time. It goes on to Toland, and it says one prevalent late 18th century tract is John Toland's A Letter to a Member of Parliament, where Toland opposed the restraining of the press as inconsistent with the Protestant religion and dangerous to the liberties of the nation. It was men's mutual duty to educate each other on all matters, including any matters that may be inconsistent with the church. And then another First Amendment, right to free press scholar from back then, Tyndall. It says Tyndall's view of the press as the people's check on government coincided with the works of Toland and Blunt, but Tyndall took it a step further. He believed that all good governments consisted of the people having the liberty of thinking on what subject they please and of as freely communicating their thoughts. Then we go down a little bit further in the document. It says this begets the question: how did the liberty of the press qualify as a customary right in the early 18th century American constitutional thought? A right to free press did not exist in any colonial or English charter. So up until the United States Constitution, there was no right to free press in any English constitution or charter or any colonial charter. So the right to free press was actually a first in our Constitution. The struggle for free press lasted, quite a while and got really heated in the late 1600s and early 1700s. And, truth wasn't a defense that you could use when you were publishing things about the government. So if you were saying like the government was defrauding the people, they would bring lawsuits against you. And the fact that you were telling the truth wasn't a defense that you could use. So they were really restrictive on what, people could write about the government. And that's where, our, I guess, anguish came from, and why we latched on so much to the free press, because it is that watchdog, the Fourth Reich, the fourth, branch there of government. So has anybody got any questions on there? I can't see the chat right now.
I don't see any questions at the moment. Everybody's pretty much talking amongst themselves. I think. Never mind.
All right. Well, a lot of times these people say, hey, you guys aren't press. But the simple fact of the matter is that everybody that's got a story to tell, a thought even on something that affects the public, like government or religion, anything of that nature, then, they are part of the press. Even the people that don't like us, like Masshole and maybe Pauly Crispy Live's panel and all these live panels, they're discussing topics of public interest. They're discussing politics, and they're discussing rights and laws, and medical marijuana, and abortion, and all this other stuff. And these are discussions of public interest. So in a sense, they're part of the press as well, because the press is the discussion of ideals and thoughts and sentiments about the government and how we're being ruled and that sort of thing. So
Welcome, 10th man.
It's going, everybody. What's up, Eyes and Rogue?
Hello,
how's
hello.
it going, sir?
Talking about the Constitution, the First Amendment.
Oh, I've been listening.
Well, we want to stay on topic. All right. You got something to add?
Oh, I'll just keep going. I'll jump in as we go.
Gotcha.
Okay, so now part of also being the press is, as the Supreme Court has laid out, is there's no special exception to the press and where the press is allowed to go. We don't have no, secret backstage pass at the Kiss concert. Those kinds of things are restricted, just like with the White House and the Pentagon and stuff like that. And you have to apply for a press pass to get into those certain events because they keep those restricted. So the general public, you don't find in the White House press room either.
A quote secure area.
Right, exactly. So the same thing with a jail. One of the things I did like a week or two ago was I made a challenge for somebody to find me case law that specifically said the words that the right to free press is restricted by the forum test, the public forum test, the non-public forum, that sort of thing. And no one's been able to claim that $100. And the reason why it is, and the reason why I even made it was because I've already searched. There is no case. All right. There is no case that says that because a jail is a non-public forum for free speech, that the jail is a non-public forum for the right to free press, and that restricts it. Okay. So there's no case law that states that. So when I go into these places and I tell them, Eyes on the State was with me this weekend, and he'll tell you we just had an incident at the jail there. We went up to the jail, and we had to buzz. They had the Nest doorbell type deal. We buzzed them, and we said, hey, we want to come in the public lobby and take a couple shots and this and that. And she says, well, let me call the captain. And she comes back and she says, listen, the captain and the chief or the commander of the whole jail, they both said, no, you can't come in and take pictures. It's against our policy. So I was like, okay, we'll see you later, And I went out to my truck and I placed a call to the county attorney. And I told her, and I said, listen, this is a public lobby. I said the public's allowed in there. I said, I'm calling you now to head off, any kind of litigation that may arise from this. I said, because it's a right to free press. I have that right to go where the general public's allowed. It's only common sense. I mean, there's no reason for press if the press can't go where the general public can go, because then the general public would know more than the press knew, wouldn't they? I mean, just by common sense, So if the press can't go where the general public can go, then I mean, what good is there a press? So I talked to her for about 5 or 10 minutes. She said she'd give me a call back. It took her about a half an hour, but she called me back. She said the chief deputy above on the whole, sheriff's office said that, yeah, there's no problem with me going in. So we ended up going back and going into the jail. We took, some of our shots. It took like 5 minutes and we got out of there.
Yep.
There was no problem. But, the thing about it is some people like the commander of that jail, he gets in that seat of power and, he's like, ooh, this is my building and I can make policies, but he can't make policies that, restrict our rights. Just like, I think it was the same trip me and I was on. This lady was talking about HIPAA and she says, we protect our documents by not allowing you to come in and video. And I said it to her, and I've also said it in another video, but they can't restrain our rights in order to fulfill their obligations. You know what I mean? They can't say, you can't come into a public lobby because we're not protecting our clients' information well enough.
And that same phrase, my building, was used in that also.
Right. Yeah. They've got that kind of mentality that, this is what they own, or, and they know they don't own it. They just work there, but it's that kind of, I don't know, kinship with the building and with the state, So it's a definite issue on the, the attitudes and stuff like that. And the fact that these people, just don't seem to understand, public is the press is the public. When they start to restrict that, I mean, that's when, liberty can definitely be lost, because if we can't keep an eye on our government, who are we, who's going to keep an eye on our government? Our government? I mean, that don't even make sense to the stupidest person in the world. I mean, you might as well put the mafia in charge of organized crime investigations,
We investigate ourselves. Don't worry. It'll be fair and unbiased.
Of course it will.
Right. So, I mean, this is, I think, one of the most important duties of citizenship. Like I read to you early, it's the duty of each man to help educate each other man in the society, so that the combined knowledge can only lift us up. Be it with rights, or be it with science, or be it with anything. I think we really lose out by allowing a large number of our population to be dumbed down and basically consumeristic zombies to the system.
If I may, see, you're dead on the money for this simple reason. If we don't have the ability to have independent reporters that aren't run and owned and paid by a corporation, then how can we ever know what is true? As you guys know, I'm a Canadian. Here, all of our media broadcasting corporations are pretty much owned by the government, right? They're run by the government. They toe the exact same line, no matter what media source you go to now. That wasn't like that 25 years ago. Issue is, you don't see real reporting in Canada any longer. It doesn't exist. Now, there is one place, I don't know if you guys want me to quote it on here, but anyway, there's one independent news organization. And, you know, when the COVID issue very first began, they were at the airport asking them, are you doing any type of screening whatsoever here? Nothing, right? No other news organization did that. There's protests going on as we speak right now in Ontario. No major news organization is covering it. No one's going out talking to the people, nothing of the sort. It's literally disinformation. That's all we get from the major media corporations. So we don't have the same rights as you guys. They're trying to actually institute laws now that says who can be media and who cannot here in Canada. So, as many people have told you guys before, if America doesn't fight to keep its rights, then the whole rest of the world is going to go down along with them into a dystopian society.
Absolutely right, man. Absolutely right. And they will try to restrict our right to keep an eye on them, because as this movement grows, as more people become disillusioned with government, which, you know, is going on every day. You know, I hear horror stories about people, you know, that have lost their house for $5,000 back taxes, you know, a $200,000 home, people that are losing their kids to CPS, and you know, just all kinds of stuff that's going on. So, I mean, more and more.
Poor Dirt Farm, if that's you, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I had a question.
Oh, go ahead.
You're talking about where you made a phone call to the state attorney, district attorney, whatever, about going into the courthouse, or not the courthouse, the jail, whatever. Well, what are we doing about the courthouse with the illegal administrative order written by the judge? Just the one for me in Columbia County that they wrote, not counting all the rest of the counties and throughout the United States. Why isn't something being addressed about that? Or what can be addressed about that, I should say?
Well, the only thing that can be addressed about an administrative order here in Florida, at least, is if a lawyer or a judge writes a letter to an advisory board in that district, I believe. I'll have to look it up again. But I looked it up, and basically you got to be a lawyer or a judge, even though there's a lot of cases pro se here in the States, or in Florida. It's got to be a lawyer or judge to write the letter. So naturally, you know, this is another defense mechanism of them to make sure that their administrative orders pretty much stay in effect. An administrative order here in Florida, it's the lowest tier of regulations in the court system. There's no public oversight. It's, you know, basically a judge's decree. And the only way to, again, counter that is if you're a lawyer or a judge, you can write a letter to, like, the ethics, you know, department overseeing the district or whatever.
Well, how can a public decree go directly against the constitutional right, which you just said that the lawyer agreed with you and allowed you into that lobby?
Well,
You know what I mean? It's like, well, let's make a decree saying you don't have a Fourth Amendment then.
Well, listen,
what's the difference?
Well, a jail public lobby is different than a courtroom for many reasons. One of the reasons being is that they
No,
don't hold
court lobby.
trials of like sexual offenders and, such as that. So what happens is, and the way the courts are ran is the Florida Supreme Court makes the rules for all the courts in the state of Florida. And the Florida Supreme Court has deemed it, obviously delegated some of that power because they're not going to sit there and oversee, 90 different courts. So they tell the chief judge of the district, you get to make the rules for the courthouses in your district. Okay. And obviously, then, have to adhere to some kind of standards. But, again, they don't want us watching them. So one of the standards they have is restricting the cameras into the courtroom. And they do this for many reasons and for many different things. You know what I mean? But, I made the point the other night that if the legislature makes laws and we keep a camera on them 24/7 with like C-SPAN and recording public meetings and that sort of stuff, and the court makes laws through case law, and both of these affect our lives, that we should also be able to, view the courts 24/7 on camera also. But, the courts are much less likely to have cameras in them because, when the legislature makes laws, it's black and white and on the paper. And, there's really no discussion about the rationale behind it or the reasoning behind that law. But in the courtrooms, the judges oftentimes get into the reasoning why they're ruling. Okay. And that is what they call dicta. And that right there will tell you, if you read it, it's not, it's not law per se. It's not part of the case law, but it'll tell you the reasoning why they came to that decision. And in that reasoning, you'll find truth of what's really going on in the country. And they don't want that on camera. And again, we'll probably never get that stuff on camera. I've gotten into some courtrooms here and there using that judicial rule, and you could probably get into the Columbia County court using that same rule. But, they tell us what courtrooms we're allowed in and what, courtrooms we're not allowed in. And, now granted, some of that is, again, sexual, violence, sexual abuse, and we shouldn't be in there recording the victims in that instance anyway. But, some of the courts, they don't want to.
Nothing about courtrooms. This ain't nothing about courtrooms. This is about the lobbies, not courtrooms. This has never had anything to do with the actual courtroom itself. But by doing what they did, by this little administrative order just here in the third right of Florida, look what they've done to blind justice. I mean, it's not just a matter of what we're going in there and filming. It's a matter of them saying we're not allowed into the courtroom, the courthouse lobbies with our cameras. Also gives them more power to be able to abuse someone like blind justice. It's not just us recording them. It's the power that they're using. See, it's more than just the recording. Look what, like I say, I can't stress it enough. Look what they did to blind justice. They wouldn't allow him in there with his devices to see in the lobby of the courthouse. With this the illegal administrative order, basically in North Carolina, the same thing happened here to South Florida, Texas, Colorado. It's everywhere. It's not just that they're taking our right to watch them away. They're taking our rights to be able to go in there and defend ourselves once we go through them doors with a camera or a seeing device like blind justice tried to use. It's more to it than the filming. I don't know how to even explain it, I guess.
Well, and again, that's because, the government has lied about so much for so long. Imagine if you were, just constantly lying about everything in your life. Okay. Everything. And, would you want someone coming around you with a camera to catch you in all these lies? And,
Absolutely.
the answer is absolutely not. So
yeah, absolutely.
in these courts, you'll find truth a lot of times in their reasoning for why they convict people, and their reasoning behind, the laws. And you could read it in the case laws, um, and the opinion of the courts. If you look them up online, you'll see a lot of the reasoning. I mean, this is some sick stuff that they're discussing. I'll give you an example. One was a family law case out of Alabama, a number of years ago. But basically, the court stated the reasoning behind giving the parents, um, the child after the child was born wasn't because it was the parent of the child, but because it was the most likely to do the state, good on raising the child. But their reasoning behind all that was that the child belonged to the state, and it was only given over to the natural parent because they were the best one of the citizens to raise the child. And that's why the state can get involved, with CPS at any point in the child's life, because, the state sees the family unit as the basis, the building block of society, the foundation of society. So the state heavily regulates the family unit through the civil contract of marriage, which is a sui generis contract, which is a contract that's ever changing. So, like, for an example, when you get a divorce, that doesn't cancel that contract of marriage; it just modifies it. Which is why the courts are still in your life, deciding which property goes where and how long the kid spends here and how much money goes here and there, even after that divorce is final. And you might have to go, back to court on that same issue, because it contract's only modified, it's not canceled. So, and this is all in their law books. You can read all this in the law books. This is nothing that's from outer space here that I'm telling you. I mean, you could type into Google any of this stuff. Marriage is a civil contract, and it'll tell you all kinds of stuff about it. So they don't really hide it, except in the fact that it's in law books and stuff. And sometimes you have to go back 50 or 100 years and read all the way up to now in order to understand their reasoning. But yeah, I mean, there's reasonings why they do, the stuff they do. And in particular, the courthouse, again, is because they don't want people to keep an eye on their actions. Now, they've been great for like 200 years of keeping people busy. I mean, back in the late 1700s and through the 1800s and early 1900s, most people were just scraping by to live. I mean, you were working 18 hours a day just to put a couple of biscuits and some corn on your plate. You know what I mean? So people didn't have the time to watch over their government. But, since the, industrial revolution and, cameras, and, now people got some time, they're not all working, 80 hours a day. Then there's time for people to go out and watch the government. And that's what we're seeing that backlash from. That's why when we go out there, they're like, well, that's not normal. Well, of course it's normal. It's written about by every constitutional scholar that had a hand in the founding of this country. It is our duty to watch over our elected officials and bring that information to the public so that they can make informed decisions about the people that are ruling them. I mean, it's so much common sense. I mean, it slaps you stupid. You know what I mean? Like, what other reason was there for the press back then? There was no New York Giants. There was no Kim Kardashian, no Justin Bieber, no Michael Jordan. What you had was people writing and passing laws, and people that were inviting discourse on those laws and on those policies, because they were forming the foundation, and they knew that. You know what I mean? How could you not understand you're forming the foundation when your ass is out there chopping down the very tree that you're going to make your house? You know what I mean? Of course they understood that. So to answer your question, Porter Farmer, sorry to go off on a tangent there, buddy, but to answer your question there, I mean, I find it very unlikely that we'll ever make it into a courthouse with our cameras in a way that's going to expose anything that's detrimental to their plans. So, you know, I don't know what much to tell you. I mean, you could try as much as you like. and I'll give you as
Well,
much help as I can.
where did we go to that one? Where did you and me and that one guy went to that one and invited us in? Remember that one we went to? He invited us in. We were down in the lobby in the records room looking at all the old records. He was all proud of the courthouse, and we walked all around with him. You sat in the judge's chamber in a chair, like you was the judge that day. You remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Huh?
I remember that. Me and I went to another courthouse this week in
Yes, we did.
Madison, Georgia,
Yep.
and they let us in, and they let us take pictures and all that other stuff. Now, we didn't record it. We were just stopping there for lunch, and but it was a nice old courthouse, and they let us in, and we were able to take pictures. I'm sure I could have recorded if I wanted to, but some places are like that, some places aren't. Granted, they wouldn't let us in the courtrooms there either.
Nope.
But
We were specifically told not to go into the superior justice's courtroom.
Shoot, they let Rogue sit in the judge's chair that day. He was like the judge, you know what I mean? He had everything but the black robe. We was all down there taking pictures of our video and him sitting up in the seat. That was cool.
He is called
But
Majorly Awesome for a reason, right?
Yeah, how can it be good for one and not for the other? And there's nothing in that courtroom that can be seen any different than Taylor County or, any of the other ones we go to. We went to the one up there, and they let us right through the security of the metal detectors. No
You're breaking
problem.
up.
We went in the
PDF,
offices.
you're breaking up real bad, man. You're breaking
If
up.
I may,
barely understand you.
get him to get closer to his rotor, probably have better success.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have Eyes and Jeff and Rogue here today, because I haven't actually had a chance to speak to anybody but Jeff about this recently. But Eyes and Rogue, I came to a conclusion earlier this year, because I couldn't figure out how it was that if we have laws that protect us from the government, how we would allow new laws to come in. That's, because those laws say they're the supreme law, that no other law can be written. So we have our chartered rights in Canada are very similar to your constitution. We modeled it after it. And I couldn't figure it out for a very, very long time. It just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, but why would our government change our laws? Because they're people too. Why would they want their rights restricted? And I just couldn't figure it out. And I came to the conclusion back in the spring, because I started calling a lot of government representatives, asking a lot of questions. And I suddenly came to the realization by talking to all of these government representatives that they were all lawyers. And then I called more different, our justice of the peace, we call them here, many different legal organizations, asking questions, a lot of questions. And I do have it all well documented and recorded. And then I suddenly came to this epiphany that it's because of the Bar Association. Bar associations are private organizations. Even our legislators, even our government has no power whatsoever over the Bar Association. They're a private organization that also have the members, which are the majority of our government representatives and the judges. They make their own rules. They investigate themselves. That is the true evil. I couldn't figure it out. I know it seems too simple, but I'm telling you right now, it's because of bar associations. This is a private organization that also writes the laws that it is regulated by. Yet their rules, they're not beholden to our government in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, and it's the same way here in America. A lot of the legislature are made up of lawyers. Obviously, all of the judicial is made up mostly of lawyers, and even the presidency and the executive a lot of times are lawyers. Like Obama was a lawyer, Clinton was a lawyer. So, and what happens is they're not restricting their rights, and especially not here in America, because, and this is something that our government never told us either, but this is the way the power structure here in America works. Is at the very top we have we the people. Now, what most people don't understand is we the people as a political entity means everybody together at one place at one time. So in effect, nobody has ever seen we the people. No one's ever seen them or heard them. So that top tier of authority had to be passed on to the public servants. Okay. And there's a court case from back then that states that, after the revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people. We were kings with no one to govern but ourselves. So what we did is we set up this government, these public servants, to govern us individually. So the power structure in America goes we the people, which no one's ever seen, then the public servants, and then underneath the public servants you have the individual citizens. Okay. And what has happened is the public servants have exempted themselves from most of the laws that they write for the individual citizen. Okay.
Right, but what I'm saying, sir, is that why in any reality that's based in logic would you have the same people that make the rules that you're supposed to live by have someone defend you from that same group? Doesn't seem like it's right that you would have a private organization that the government has no power over whatsoever, that you would be required, like you were saying about you need to have a letter from a lawyer. Well, even if that lawyer's defending you specifically, like in Blind Justice's case, why would that lawyer be part of an association where the same person that's against you and they're in the same organization? That seems very odd. Doesn't that seem odd to you that they would be part of the same private organization?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it seems odd to me or you, but for the majority of the people, they spend no time thinking. I mean, most people honestly spend, probably 5 minutes a day thinking, if that. Most people's minds are filled up with talking points from their favorite, TV hosts and TV news anchor.
Speaking of, not to interrupt that, but speaking of talking points, the government just signed a order that pulled the 1776 Commission to promote patriotic education in schools.
Well, so basically a propaganda arm.
Yes, that's exactly what it says.
Right. Yeah, and that's basically what happened. 10th Man. From what I know here in our country, is that the people were dumbed down. They're apathetic to what's going on, and they've really been made, busy beavers. A lot of people think that freedom to them is freedom of choice, meaning that they get to watch, 50 different channels of TV, and there's 20 different, hot pockets and, stuff like that. And they, fill their lives with what I'd consider busy work, taking the kids to soccer practice and trying to live that illusion of freedom, because they don't realize, in fact, that they're not free. And they don't realize, hey, lawyers have been in the position of power in this country for the last 200 years. There might be something behind that. You know what I mean?
Well, yes, because I spoke to a lawyer a few months ago, like a lawyer for the city that and it was just a happenstance. I didn't go to his office or anything like that. We met in an office, and I asked him, I said, "Are you a lawyer?" He said, "Yes." And he said, "For the city." I said, "Okay." And I proposed the exact same argument to him as I've presented in this discussion now. And he said, because his eyes kind of woke up from that glaze that you see people wake up from when you've challenged them and they you know, now they're not in their zombie stupor any longer. And he said, well, it's like with the College of Physicians and Surgeons with doctors, you have to have somebody to regulate them. I said, I understand that, but they don't write the laws, write their own paychecks, and self-regulate themselves. The government has power over doctors and the medical association, but it has no power over a bar association. Can you explain to me how this is not a one-sided system? I would like to know why you believe that it's okay for this private organization to actually be a ruling body over the citizens of a country, because it seems like a monarchy. It seems like we've been taken over by a monarchy of the elite.
Right. Right. And I can agree with that. I mean, you know, it's more than evident that, you know, things are not as what they told us throughout school. You know, it's more than evident that you know, there's more to the story. But a lot of times, because I've looked at that story and I've talked to people about that story, and you know, a lot of times people want to believe what they already believe, so it's hard for us to you know, wake people up until they themselves have that, like you said, that eyes glazed over look, until they have that aha moment, you know, when something affects them. You know, I'll give you a perfect example. The lady that helped pass the three strikes law out in California, to where if you got a third strike, you'd serve life in prison. You know, she helped pass that law. And then all of a sudden, her son steals a piece of pizza, okay, his third offense, and he goes to prison for life. And she's like, oh, I thought it was only for hardened criminals. You know, so I mean, people are apathetic to even, you know, their own plight. I mean, they sometimes vote against their own best interests, even, you know, to be along party lines. And
the person who helped me realize this, I can't, Susan Bassey, you guys are probably familiar with her. And I didn't really understand. I didn't get it until I started watching her videos and started seeing the lawyers that were obviously corrupt. Yeah, and then that whole thing where they can have the private judges where you pay them, things like that. Like, I don't know if you're up to date with that stuff, but my point is maybe we have been looking in the wrong place the whole time, is what I'm saying. Right? Is we're thinking that just, you know, like a sheriff's office, things like that, that they're the actual problem, when if we had a way to regulate lawyers, where there should never be a person in public office that is previously or at the same time allowed to be a lawyer. You understand? Because they're already beholden to a different organization before they become that public servant, and that is a direct violation of their oath. Right? So you can't have predispositions. That's part of you becoming a public servant, but they automatically do. So that's a very serious problem. And I believe that that's pretty much the only way that we can fix this, is you can't, we have to actually start holding these people to the oaths that they make. And if you have a government representative that's a lawyer, they shouldn't even be allowed to be voted in.
Right. But I mean, if lawyers already control the system, and in fact they do, I agree there, how are you going to get lawyers out of the system?
Well, no, I'm saying automatically in their oath, it says, I do not have any predispositions that would counteract, that would countermand my oath to this office, but they do. So they shouldn't even be able to have been voted into that office in the first place, but nobody's looking at this. That's what I'm saying is, you know, our friend 5-Speed, he talks a lot about language, and a lot of people just tune him out. But it's very, very important, because we're not looking at the details. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think it's going to be hard to go that route to try to get them out, when most of the people don't even know that there's a problem. I think the first step is awareness that there's a problem, just like in AA. Um, or I guess any kind of problem. You have to realize first that there is a problem. Before you can make a plan to
And admit that
solve
the
the
problem
problem.
exists. Yes.
Right. And the majority of people today think that, we're running along just as we should, and that, what the government has told them is truthful, and the government would never do anything to hurt them. And,
I don't
they're
think
looking
you're
out for our
correct
best
about that,
interest.
sir. I really don't. I think that maybe you're also falling into the mainstream media stuff and you're just not seeing it, because I watch a lot of alternative media sources. A lot. And it's happening, right? There's people freaking out everywhere. I don't think that I would say that there's less than 10% of the population of North America that trusts their government even a tiny bit, right? Is that we're lied to. That's what I
Well,
believe is actually going on. And that's why I really, we had another discussion earlier yesterday, and I was posing questions to, about your endeavors. And I was not trying to be contrary in any way. I think that this is the best way to start getting the message out there, because a lot of people just don't go to YouTube for this.
right.
Coming up on an hour.
Okay. Well, let me just get one point across about the majority of people, being upset at their government or not trusting their government. You can see just from the election itself here in the States that not only people trust their government, half of the people trust the Republican government, the other half of the people trust the Republican government. And specifically, I was on a website called survivalistboards.com, and they have a discussion forum on there. And with each election, I've been on it over 15 years. With each election, if it's a Democrat, then the Republicans are saying, "Oh God, we're going into socialism, and our guns are going to be taken, and this and that and this and that, or and you can't trust the government, and yada yada." And then all of a sudden, the Republicans get elected, and these guys that were bitching about how you can't trust the government and how we were going to fall into socialism, now they're just quiet and eating baby back ribs and drinking beer, and now the government can be trusted. And the Democrats are over here saying, "No, the government can't be trusted, and this guy's the Antichrist," and whatever else they're saying. So a lot of people trust the government. It's just the government that they think is the most truthful to them, Democrat or Republican. And some people, and I agree, everybody, if you ask everybody, you say, "Hey, do you think the government lies?" They'll be like, "Oh yeah, they lie about certain stuff." But they won't say that the government lies about everything. Okay. They won't say that the government is lying to you, based on whatever their ideology is, about certain things. You know what I mean? Like if you ask the Republicans right now, if the Trump government lies, they're more than likely going to tell you no, and if you ask the Democrats about, Bill Clinton's government lying, or Obama's lying, I'm sure you've seen the memes on it, how he had no affairs and no scandals and none of this. To those people in that party, their leaders can do no wrong. It's the way the brain works, because they already believe that their party can do no wrong. So any information that says their party is going to do wrong automatically gets blocked by their brain. And that's how they go through life. So I mean,
I just challenge everybody to start looking into their local law societies and actually find out exactly how much power they have over your entire governmental system. It's shocking. And I've actually tried to contact them on multiple occasions. They don't speak to you. They're not required to in any way. It's a private organization that is funded by lawyers' fees. They pay for their license. They are self-regulating. So we have a self-regulating private organization that is writing our laws that protect them from us.